Iran has executed two men involved in anti-government protests. State media said the two were hanged in the early morning. It said they had been convicted of killing a security official. Their execution follows that of two other men hanged last month. Amnesty International has described the trials as a sham designed to intimidate protesters. Well, for more on this, we're joined now by Kamran Matin. He is a senior lecturer of international relations at the University of Sussex in the UK and is an expert on politics in Iran. Kamran, welcome to DW. So, first and foremost, what can you tell us about the men who were executed today?
Yes, these were Mohammad Mehdi Karami, who was 22 years old and a semi-professional karate champion, and the second man was Mohammad Hosseini, who was 39. They were both arrested back early in November during a protest in the city of Karaj, in the outskirts of Tehran, during which a member of Basij militia, a part of the IRGC, Revolutionary Guards, was killed. So these two were part of a group of 16 people who were arrested in relation to that case. Three others have been also sentenced to death, and the other ones also facing charges which carries death penalty potentially.
Kamran, what legal support do imprisoned protesters receive, if any?
Well, as Amnesty International, but also Human Rights Center in Iran have consistently made clear, political prisoners arrested in relation to protest are denied proper judicial support. They are usually given court-appointed lawyers who either do not do their job properly because they are close to the court and the officials, or when they do want to put some effort into representing them, they are actually not given enough time. In this particular case, one of those who was hanged today, Mohammad Mehdi Karami, was in fact had been on hunger strike for the past 4 days in protest to being denied access to his chosen lawyer. The other person's lawyer, a court-appointed lawyer, was reported saying that when he met him in prison, Mohammad Hosseini, his client, was in tears, reported torture, and even the court-appointed lawyer in this case had said that this his confessions, had no really legal standing, given that it was extracted under torture and pressure.
Now, Kamran, human rights activists say these executions are intended to silence political opposition and discourage the protesters. Do you believe they're having that effect?
Well, I mean, the protests had already sort of slowed down a bit in terms of intensity and scale before the first executions took place. And this, I believe, had more to do with the harsh repression which the regime carried out, especially in so-called ethnic minority regions in Kurdistan and Baluchistan in particular, making kind of a showcase for the rest of Iran how the regime would potentially crack down on the protest. But the fact is that the protest actually still continues sporadically. Even last night, there were reports and video footages of protests in Sanandaj. So the protest, I think the protesters are more like regrouping and reflecting their methods rather than protests having been ended fully by the regime at this point.
Kamran Matin, an expert on politics in Iran. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, in the studio with me is Helge Limburg. He is a member of the German Parliament and a political sponsor for Mohammad Mehdi Karami. Helge, welcome to DW. Now, as I've just mentioned, you've been actively campaigning, I suppose, against the execution of Mohammad Mehdi Karami. Devastating news, obviously. What will your next steps now be?
Of course, this was a shocking, terrifying moment this morning when I got the news from Iran. But the regime won't reach what they want to reach, that we be quiet. Nor we in Germany will be quiet, neither the people in Iran or anywhere else on the world will be quiet to this violation of human rights.
Have you been in contact with his family?
I don't want to talk about details in this situation because, of course, you don't know which consequences it would have in Iran. Let me say that there is a group of democratic activists in Berlin and Germany who have contact to people in Iran, and they organized and match these political sponsorships.
Tell us a little bit about this political sponsorship, because you're one of many political sponsors, as you mentioned, here in the German Parliament. Tell us what that actually entails.
The political sponsorship is one possibility to take action for us as individual members of Parliament, to make sure that there's public on the special cases, because what the regime wants is to oppress the opposition country without international public. And we try to make it public, to bring it to the world, what happens in Iran, and to bring the names, the faces of activists in Iran who are tortured, who are imprisoned, who are in unfair trials, so not to allow the regime to oppress it in silence.
The EU imposed new sanctions on Iran in December, and we're seeing people being executed, which is what we're discussing today. Obviously, that's horrendous, what's happening there. But I want to know, how effective are these sanctions then?
Sanctions are always something for the long run, not for a short term. So, of course, it's an ongoing process to always see what new sanctions can be set on Iran, on persons of the Iran regime, of the security services in Iran. Let me say, of course, we will keep in mind these new executions and always discuss which new sanctions we can set to people in Iran, to the government of Iran.
Well, that brings me on to the next question. What can we expect from, say, the German government and the EU in response to what we're seeing taking place in Iran at the moment?
The German government and the EU as whole have never been quiet to the situation in Iran. And of course, especially our foreign secretary, the establishing of human rights, which are valid all over the world as well in Iran, is very important. It's a very important factor in our foreign policy. So, of course, these new executions will have consequences. At the moment, it is not pretty clear which consequences exactly it will be, but there will be consequences. We won't be quiet. The German government nor the EU will be quiet to this violation of human rights.
Helge Limburg, member of the German Parliament and political sponsor for Mohammed Mehdi Karami. Thank you for joining us today on DW.
Thank you very much.